The sun dipped low over the small town of Maplewood, casting a golden hue over the familiar streets. I often found solace in these quiet evenings, where the world slowed down just enough for reflection. My husband, Tom, was busy with his work at the local hardware store, and my son, Jake, was off at college. The house felt emptier than usual, a hollow echo of what once buzzed with laughter and chaos. I stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner. The rhythmic sound of the knife against the cutting board was oddly comforting. Yet, beneath that comfort lay an unsettling discontent. My marriage had settled into a routine that felt more like a habit than a partnership. Tom was reliable and kind but often lost in his own thoughts or work. I craved connection, something deeper than mundane conversations about bills or household chores. That longing became more pronounced when Jake's best friend, Ben, came to stay with us for a few days during his fall break. He was home from college and needed a place to crash while visiting friends in town. Ben had always been charming, his laughter infectious and his energy vibrant, but seeing him again after some time stirred something unexpected in me. At first, it was innocent enough. We shared meals together. I would catch glimpses of him helping Jake with homework or joking around in the living room. There was an ease to his presence that made me feel youthful again. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching fireflies dance in the twilight, Ben turned to me with a playful grin. "Mrs. Thompson," he said teasingly, "you should join us for some fun at the Harvest Festival this weekend." The festival was a beloved local tradition filled with booths showcasing crafts and food from our community. I hadn't attended in years. Tom usually preferred staying home rather than mingling with neighbors. But something about Ben's invitation made my heart race. "Maybe I will," I replied lightly, surprising myself. As Saturday approached, I found myself excitedly planning what to wear, a rare indulgence after years of focusing solely on family needs and responsibilities. The day of the festival arrived bright and clear. Laughter filled the air as families strolled through Main Street. The scent of fried dough mingled with fresh apple cider wafted through the crowd. I lost myself among vibrant stalls adorned with autumn decorations, pumpkins lined up like little soldiers awaiting their fate. Children darted past me, their faces painted like whimsical creatures. Amidst this joyful chaos stood Ben near a booth selling handmade jewelry. "Hey! You made it," he exclaimed when he spotted me. His enthusiasm was contagious. We wandered from booth to booth together while Jake caught up with friends nearby. As we sampled caramel apples and exchanged stories about our lives since last summer, I felt a warmth blooming inside me, a feeling I thought had long since faded away. But then came an unexpected moment that shifted everything. We found ourselves standing by a small pond adorned with floating lanterns reflecting on its surface. It felt intimate there. Ben leaned closer as he spoke about his dreams and ambitions after college. "I want to make something of myself," he said earnestly, his eyes shining under the soft glow of dusk. I nodded along but felt an undeniable pull toward him, a connection that transcended mere friendship or admiration for my son's best friend. Suddenly aware of how close we were standing, I took a step back, trying to regain composure. "I'm proud of you," I managed to say softly. In that fleeting moment, our eyes locked, an unspoken understanding passing between us before Jake called out from behind us. "Mom! Come on! We're going to miss the fireworks." His voice broke whatever spell had formed between Ben and me. I turned away quickly as if waking from a dream just before it could turn into something more profound, or dangerous. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Fireworks exploded overhead while my heart raced beneath my chest like wild horses galloping free across open fields. As we drove home later that night under a blanket of stars twinkling above us like distant dreams yet unfulfilled, my mind replayed every moment spent with Ben at the festival. The way he smiled at me as if seeing something beyond just an older woman who cooked meals for his best friend's family. "Did you have fun?" Jake asked from the back seat as he fiddled with his phone. Yeah, I replied absent-mindedly while stealing glances at Ben sitting next to me in silence, his presence both comforting yet unsettling all at once. That night lingered long after everyone else went to bed. Sleep eluded me as thoughts spiraled around my mind like autumn leaves caught in an unpredictable windstorm, questions swirling about what this newfound attraction meant for my life moving forward. The following days unfolded quietly enough until one afternoon brought another twist into my already complicated existence. Ben casually mentioned needing help studying for an upcoming exam while Jake practiced guitar upstairs. A perfect opportunity for us to spend time alone together without interruptions looming nearby like shadows cast by fading sunlight through windowpanes filled with dust from years gone by unnoticed. And so began our secret rendezvous. Afternoons spent poring over textbooks turned into laughter-filled hours where walls seemed less confining than before, the boundaries blurring ever so slightly between what was acceptable and what lay beyond those lines drawn by society's expectations. As the days turned into weeks, the weight of my secret began to feel heavier, pressing against my chest like a stone. Each afternoon spent with Ben felt like a dance on the edge of a precipice. Our laughter echoed through the quiet house, a stark contrast to the silence that usually enveloped my life. Yet, with every shared glance, I sensed a shift, a pull that was both exhilarating and terrifying. One afternoon, while Jake was at soccer practice, I found myself in the kitchen preparing snacks. Ben walked in, his presence filling the space with an energy that sent tingles down my spine. He leaned against the counter, casually flipping through a cookbook I had left open. "What's cooking?" he asked, his tone playful. "Just some cookies," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jake loves them." Ben smiled, leaning closer as he reached for a chocolate chip. "I can't resist cookies," he said with a wink. The simple act of sharing food felt intimate, a moment suspended in time where everything else faded away. As I handed him a warm cookie, our fingers brushed against each other. A spark ignited between us, and for an instant, I forgot about my life outside this kitchen. "Thanks for helping me study," Ben said softly as he took a bite. "I really appreciate it." "Of course," I managed to say, feeling warmth spread through me at his gratitude. Yet as we stood there together, laughter mingling with unspoken words, an undercurrent of tension simmered just beneath the surface. The thrill of our connection was intoxicating but also fraught with danger. What if someone found out? What would Jake think? The questions swirled around in my mind like leaves caught in an autumn breeze. That evening, after dinner was done and Jake had retreated to his room for some downtime with his guitar, Ben suggested we take a walk in the local park. The fading light painted the sky in shades of orange and pink as we strolled along the path lined with trees whispering secrets only they could understand. "I love this place," Ben said as he stopped to admire the view over the small pond where ducks paddled lazily by. "It's peaceful," I agreed, though my heart raced at being alone with him in such an intimate setting. We continued walking until we reached a secluded bench tucked away from prying eyes. Sitting down felt both right and wrong. It was too late to turn back now. We talked about everything and nothing, our hopes for the future and our favorite memories from childhood, each word weaving us closer together. Then came that moment when silence enveloped us like a warm blanket. Our eyes met, there was no denying what hung between us anymore. Without thinking, or perhaps thinking too much, I leaned in closer until our lips met. We kissed. It was soft yet electrifying, an affirmation of everything unspoken that had been building between us. But just as quickly as it began, doubt crept back in like shadows chasing daylight away. What had I done? My heart raced not just from excitement but from fear of what this meant for my life, the life I had built around family obligations and expectations. "What are we doing?" I whispered against his lips after pulling away slightly. "I don't know," he admitted softly, his brow furrowing slightly as if he too were grappling with this sudden shift in our relationship. A knot formed in my stomach as reality crashed back down on me like waves breaking against rocks on a stormy night. This couldn't continue without consequences. It felt reckless and selfish all at once. "We should head back," I said finally, breaking our moment before it could deepen into something more complicated than either of us were ready for. We walked back in silence. Each step felt heavier than the last as thoughts churned within me like turbulent waters beneath an otherwise calm surface. What would happen next? How could we navigate this newfound bond without hurting those we loved? Returning home felt surreal. Jake was still upstairs lost in his music while Ben helped me clean up after dinner, his presence both comforting and unnerving at once. The familiar rhythm of household chores seemed mundane compared to what had just transpired outside under fading twilight skies. As days turned into routine again, with study sessions blending into laughter-filled afternoons, I couldn't shake off what happened between us that day at the park. Every glance shared carried an unspoken weight, every brush of hands ignited memories of warmth that lingered long after they faded away into everyday life again. One evening while sitting on the couch watching television together, Jake sprawled out on one end engrossed in his phone. Ben leaned over towards me casually enough but close enough that our shoulders touched lightly. "Do you think about it?" he asked quietly so only I could hear him above the sounds from the screen flickering before us. "What do you mean?" My heart raced at where this conversation might lead, but part of me craved more than just casual banter now. It craved clarity amidst confusion swirling around us both like autumn leaves caught up in wind gusts that wouldn't settle down anytime soon either way. "The kiss," he replied simply yet loaded with meaning behind those two words hanging there suspended between us waiting for acknowledgement or dismissal depending on how one looked at things. I hesitated before answering because honesty felt risky yet necessary all at once. But how could I articulate something so complex without unraveling everything around me? "Yeah, I think about it." His gaze intensified then softened almost immediately afterward, revealing vulnerability beneath bravado, a glimpse into how tangled feelings might be even more complicated than either had anticipated since crossing lines drawn by society's expectations earlier on. "We can't keep pretending nothing happened," he murmured, finally breaking through silence again lingering between us both as though waiting patiently for someone brave enough to take action toward resolution instead. "I know." My voice barely rose above whispers echoing off walls surrounding us, filled not only with echoes from television shows playing out before our eyes but also shadows cast by decisions made previously leading up until now too. The tension hung thick around us both. Choices loomed large ahead waiting patiently while uncertainty wrapped itself tightly around hearts yearning for clarity amidst chaos swirling within uncharted territories unknown thus far leading onward toward whatever lay ahead next. The air was thick with unspoken words as I stood there, my heart racing. The living room felt smaller than ever, the walls closing in as if they were witnesses to our secret. I glanced at him, my son's best friend, who was now standing just a breath away. His eyes held a mixture of uncertainty and longing, mirroring the turmoil within me. "Sarah," he said softly, breaking the silence that felt almost suffocating. I wanted to respond, to tell him everything swirling in my mind, but the weight of my marriage hung heavy on my shoulders. What would he think if I opened up about the guilt that gnawed at me? The thrill of our connection contrasted sharply with the responsibilities that defined my life. The evening light streamed through the window, casting a warm glow over us. It reminded me of simpler times, family dinners, laughter echoing through the house. But those memories felt distant now, overshadowed by this growing bond with someone who should have been off limits. My heart raced as I recalled our stolen moments together, the laughter shared during late-night conversations and the spark ignited when we kissed. "Do you think it's wrong?" I asked suddenly, my voice barely above a whisper. He hesitated before replying. "I don't know what's right anymore." His gaze dropped to the floor, as if searching for answers among the worn-out carpet fibers. I felt a pang of guilt wash over me. This wasn't just about us, it involved my family too. My husband was oblivious to the storm brewing just beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life. How could I justify this connection when every moment spent together felt like betrayal? Yet here we were, caught in a web of desire and fear. A sudden noise from outside jolted me back to reality, a car door slamming shut followed by voices drifting in from the street. Panic coursed through me as I recognized my husband's voice among them. He was home early from work, an unexpected twist that sent adrenaline rushing through my veins. "We need to talk," I said urgently, glancing toward the door that led to safety, a safety now shattered by his arrival. He stepped closer, his brow furrowing with concern. "What's wrong?" I shook my head, overwhelmed by conflicting emotions swirling within me like a tempest. "Nothing, just..." Before I could finish, our lips met in a moment of vulnerability that took us both by surprise. It was electric and terrifying all at once, a collision of desires that threatened to consume us both whole. The sound of footsteps grew louder outside as dread settled heavily in my stomach. The kiss lingered in the air between us like an uninvited guest that we could neither ignore nor embrace fully. "I can't do this," I finally murmured against his lips, pushing back against the tide of emotions threatening to pull me under. "Sarah," he pleaded softly, his eyes searching mine for understanding. But before either of us could gather our thoughts or make sense of what had just happened, the front door swung open with a creak that echoed through our fragile bubble. "Hey! You guys home?" My husband called out cheerfully from the entryway. My heart sank as reality crashed down around me like waves against jagged rocks. There was no escaping this moment, no running from what had transpired between us just seconds before he walked in on us. "We're here," I called back too brightly for comfort while stepping away from him instinctively as if distancing myself could erase what had happened. My husband appeared in the doorway moments later with an easy smile on his face, a smile that felt like a mask hiding deeper truths beneath its surface. "What are you two up to?" "Just talking," I replied hastily while shooting him an uneasy glance. The lie tasted bitter on my tongue but seemed necessary under these circumstances. He nodded slowly but didn't seem convinced, something flickered in his eyes, a hint of suspicion perhaps? Or maybe it was just fatigue settling into his features after another long day at work? "Dinner is almost ready," he announced before turning away toward the kitchen without asking any further questions, yet something unsaid lingered between us like smoke after a fire has burned out completely. Once he left us alone again momentarily, just long enough for tension to build once more, I turned back toward him feeling vulnerable yet emboldened by everything we'd shared so far despite knowing how dangerous it truly was. "I didn't mean for that to happen," I confessed quietly while glancing down at my hands nervously clasped together before me, an attempt at grounding myself amidst chaos unfolding around us both now more than ever before. "I know." His voice was steady despite everything swirling around us. It offered reassurance even while uncertainty loomed large ahead waiting patiently still. But how could we navigate this tangled web we had woven ourselves into? Each decision seemed fraught with consequences beyond anything either one of us could truly comprehend fully yet. In those fleeting moments filled with unspoken words and lingering glances exchanged between breaths taken too quickly, time slipped away unnoticed until finally reality came crashing back down upon both of us once more again when footsteps echoed loudly outside reminding me once more where loyalties lay rooted deep within family ties forged over years spent together building lives side by side. As dinner progressed uneasily around our table filled with laughter echoing off walls surrounding us, it became painfully clear how fragile everything really was. Each bite tasted bittersweet against backdrop painted brightly only moments earlier now dimmed slightly under shadows cast by choices made a long way leading onward into unknown territories ahead waiting patiently still. The air in the house felt thick with unsaid words and unresolved emotions. As I moved through the familiar rooms, each corner whispered memories of my life, a life that now felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I could hear laughter from the living room where my husband and son were sharing stories, their voices a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside me. The very essence of family, once comforting, now felt like a weight pressing down on my chest. I glanced at the clock on the wall, its hands ticking away time I couldn't afford to waste. My heart raced as I thought about him, my son's best friend, Alex, who had become an unexpected source of comfort in this tumultuous period. He had been staying with us for a few days while he worked on his thesis, and every moment we spent together deepened my internal conflict. It was a delicate balance between familial loyalty and an attraction that I had never anticipated. That evening, as dinner concluded, I found myself retreating to the kitchen under the guise of cleaning up. The clattering of dishes provided an excuse to escape the laughter that felt increasingly distant. Just then, Alex walked in, his presence lighting up the dimly lit space like a beacon in my otherwise cloudy thoughts. "Can I help?" he asked, leaning against the counter with that easy charm that made my heart flutter. "No need," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady as I wiped down plates. "Just some dishes left." He stepped closer, and for a moment, we stood side by side in silence. The warmth radiating from him was intoxicating. "You know," he began hesitantly, "I've really enjoyed being here. It's nice to have someone to talk to." My breath caught at his words. We had shared countless conversations over the past few days, each one drew me further into his world while pulling me away from my own reality. "It's been nice," I managed to say. Then came that moment, a fleeting glance turned into something more profound as our eyes locked for just a heartbeat longer than necessary. In those seconds stretched between us, everything else faded away, obligations blurred into insignificance. "We spent the night together," he murmured softly after what felt like an eternity of silence. His words hung in the air like an uninvited guest, they were both thrilling and terrifying. Memories of our late-night discussions flooded back, the laughter shared over cups of tea and secrets whispered beneath blankets during chilly evenings spent on the porch. "Alex," my voice faltered as I fought against what those words could mean for both of us. "I know this is complicated," he interrupted gently but firmly. "But there's something real here." Complicated was an understatement. It was a labyrinthine mess of emotions and responsibilities that left me dizzy just thinking about it. But there was also truth in his statement, something raw and genuine that had blossomed amidst all this chaos. As if sensing my hesitation, he reached out hesitantly but didn't touch me, an invitation without pressure. "I don't want to rush you into anything," he said quietly. The weight of his sincerity tugged at something deep within me. It was both comforting and alarming at once. Did I dare explore this connection further? Each day brought new challenges as guilt loomed large over every interaction we shared while wrapped in secrecy. Suddenly there was a loud crash from outside, a reminder of where reality lay waiting just beyond our bubble of intimacy. The moment shattered like glass against concrete as we both turned toward the sound with startled expressions painted across our faces. "Everything okay?" My husband called from another room, breaking whatever fragile spell had enveloped us moments before. "Just some wind," Alex replied quickly before stepping back slightly as if creating distance would somehow erase what we'd almost crossed into together. I couldn't shake off how close we'd come to crossing lines drawn so carefully throughout years spent building this life, a life filled with expectations and obligations that now felt suffocating rather than secure. Later that night, when everyone had gone to bed and darkness wrapped itself around our home like an old blanket worn thin from years of use, I found myself staring at the ceiling above me, lost in thought again, unable to sleep despite exhaustion weighing heavily upon me. What did it mean for us moving forward? Could anything ever come from these feelings? Or would they remain forever trapped within these walls built around family duty? As if summoned by my thoughts alone, An unexpected knock echoed through our quiet home, breaking apart silence once more shrouded within shadows cast by flickering lights overhead, illuminating passages leading onward toward unknown territories ahead, waiting patiently still. "Sarah," Alex whispered softly through barely cracked doorframe, peeking inside tentatively, almost shyly, seeking permission without uttering another word aloud, inviting conversation back into light once more, again lighting up spaces left darkened previously only moments earlier filled instead with uncertainty lingering heavily upon shoulders weighed down by choices made a long way leading onward toward inevitable crossroads ahead. "Can we talk?" His voice carried softly yet held undeniable urgency behind it, compelling enough, urging me forward without hesitation, echoing against backdrop painted brightly only moments earlier, now dimmed slightly under shadows cast by choices made a long way leading onward into unknown territories ahead, waiting patiently still. The next hour slipped away unnoticed as we exchanged thoughts about everything. The future looming ominously overhead, creating tension-filled spaces between breaths taken too quickly, leaving behind echoes resonating off walls surrounding us, reminding both parties involved where loyalties lay rooted deep within family ties forged over years spent together, building lives side by side. But even amidst all this clarity gained, I couldn't shake off guilt gnawing steadily away at heartstrings, tugging insistently, urging caution against reckless abandon, tempting fate, inviting consequences unforeseen ahead, waiting patiently still. The afternoon sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the living room. I sat on the couch, my thoughts a tangled web of regret and desire. The weight of my choices pressed heavily on my chest, making it difficult to breathe. My son was supposed to be home soon, and the prospect of facing him filled me with dread. Just as I began to sort through my emotions, the front door creaked open. I glanced up and saw Jake stepping inside, his presence filling the space with an unsettling mix of comfort and chaos. He smiled at me, that familiar warmth igniting a flicker of something I had tried so hard to suppress. "Hey, Mrs. Thompson," he said casually, shoving his hands into his pockets. "Is Alex around?" I shook my head slowly. "He's still at school." My voice felt distant, as if it belonged to someone else entirely. Jake stepped further into the room, lingering near the edge of the couch. "Mind if I hang out for a bit?" The invitation hung in the air like an unspoken agreement between us. I hesitated but nodded anyway, knowing full well what this could lead to. The tension crackled between us like static electricity. "Sure," I managed to say, forcing a smile that felt more like a mask than genuine warmth. As he settled onto the armchair opposite me, I couldn't help but notice how much he had grown since he first entered our lives as a shy teenager. Now he exuded confidence and charm that made it hard for me to remember why I should resist him. The memories of our stolen moments flooded back, each one both intoxicating and suffocating. "So," Jake said after a moment of silence, "what's new with you?" I could sense the underlying current in his question. It was an invitation to breach unspoken boundaries we had carefully constructed around ourselves. But how could I explain? How could I articulate this whirlwind of emotions without exposing myself completely? "Nothing much," I replied vaguely, avoiding his gaze. He leaned forward slightly, his expression shifting from casual to serious. "You seem different lately." His eyes bore into mine with an intensity that made my heart race. "I'm just tired," I said quickly, hoping to deflect any probing questions. Yet deep down, I knew he could see through my facade. Jake continued to watch me closely as if searching for something hidden beneath my surface, an acknowledgement of our connection that lingered like an uninvited guest in the room. Then came the knock at the door. The sound jolted me from my thoughts. My heart sank as I recognized it was Alex returning home earlier than expected. Panic coursed through me as Jake's eyes widened briefly before he quickly composed himself. "Do you want me to hide?" he asked quietly. "No," I whispered urgently. "Just act normal." The door swung open moments later, revealing my son with a backpack slung over one shoulder and a puzzled expression on his face. "Hey. What's up?" Alex greeted us cheerfully before noticing Jake sitting there awkwardly. "Oh, hey man." "Hey," Jake replied casually while shifting in his seat as if trying too hard not to appear guilty. Alex dropped his bag onto the floor and headed straight for the kitchen without another word. The tension in the air thickened like fog rolling over a landscape, a reminder that our secret was teetering on a precipice ready to plunge into chaos at any moment. I exchanged glances with Jake. We both understood what was at stake here. The fragile balance we had maintained thus far was about to be tested in ways we never anticipated. As Alex rummaged through cupboards looking for snacks, Jake leaned closer toward me again, his voice barely above a whisper. "What's going on between us? This can't just be nothing." My heart raced at his words. They hung heavily between us like an unsaid confession waiting for release. But before I could respond or even process what he meant by nothing, Alex reappeared holding a bag of chips triumphantly aloft like it was some kind of trophy. "Found it," he exclaimed before plopping down beside Jake on the couch without any awareness of how close we had been moments before or what had transpired between us previously. The atmosphere shifted immediately. Normalcy returned as laughter filled our small living room, a stark contrast against everything brewing beneath its surface just moments prior. Yet even amidst this facade of family life surrounding us now, I felt trapped within walls built by choices made against better judgment. Later that evening after dinner concluded and dishes were cleared away leaving remnants behind, an unexpected conversation unfolded when Alex casually mentioned something about Jake's past that shook me deeply inside. A revelation about struggles faced during high school years involving family issues which painted him in an entirely new light altogether. "I didn't know you went through all that," Alex said, genuinely concerned while leaning forward earnestly listening intently, as if every word mattered deeply within their friendship forged over years spent together navigating life's ups and downs side by side. Jake shrugged off Alex's concern with practiced ease but failed miserably, hiding discomfort etched across features betraying him entirely, something darker lurking beneath surface-level charm which made me question everything once more. "What happened?" My voice broke through their conversation unexpectedly. Curiosity mingled dangerously with concern, though part of me wished not to pry further into matters belonging solely within personal histories best left untouched. "It was nothing really," Jake replied too quickly, glancing away from both of us, avoiding eye contact entirely, a telltale sign indicating deeper struggles still haunting him, perhaps even now. Alex seemed satisfied enough with this response, but something within urged caution, urging deeper inquiry, still gnawing relentlessly away at instincts urging me toward understanding hidden truths lying beneath layers obscured from view. As night settled outside, casting shadows across rooms filled with silence broken only by sounds echoing from television playing softly nearby, I couldn't shake off feeling unsettled, knowing choices made today would ripple outward, affecting everyone involved, including those closest around us, forever altering dynamics once thought stable, safe, secure. I glanced toward Jake again, catching him staring back at me. Our eyes locked momentarily, holding unspoken words shared silently between two souls navigating treacherous waters, fraught danger lurking just beyond horizon, waiting patiently for opportunity arise, strike when least expected, leaving behind consequences unforeseen, awaiting discovery ahead. The air was thick with tension as I sat across from Jake in the dim light of the living room. The television flickered, casting shadows that danced across his face, accentuating the uncertainty that hung between us. I could sense the weight of our shared secret pressing down on both of us, almost palpable in the silence. "Sarah," he began, his voice barely above a whisper. "What are we doing?" The question hung there, heavy and loaded. I shifted uncomfortably in my seat, searching for words that could encapsulate my confusion and fear. "I don't know," I finally admitted, my voice shaky. "But it feels complicated." Jake leaned forward slightly, his brow furrowed with concern. "Complicated doesn't even begin to cover it." I glanced away, feeling a wave of guilt wash over me. It was true, every moment we spent together felt like a betrayal to my family. Yet there was an undeniable connection between us that was impossible to ignore. I had never anticipated this would happen when Jake first came into our lives as my son's best friend. Can we just take a step back? Think this through? I suggested, hoping to regain some semblance of control over the situation. He nodded slowly but didn't say anything more. The silence stretched again as we both contemplated the consequences of our actions. My heart raced at the thought of being discovered. The very notion sent shivers down my spine. Maybe we should talk about boundaries, I proposed tentatively, trying to steer our conversation into safer waters. Boundaries, he echoed incredulously. You mean like pretending this isn't happening? Because that's not working for me. His honesty struck me hard, and I felt a mix of frustration and admiration for his candor. It's not that simple, I replied defensively. Then what is it? He pressed gently, leaning back in his chair as if bracing himself for whatever might come next. I let out a long sigh and ran a hand through my hair. I have a family to think about, my husband, my son, everything. Jake's expression softened slightly as he regarded me with understanding eyes. And what about you? What do you want? The question hung in the air like an uninvited guest, demanding attention. What did I want? The answer eluded me like smoke slipping through fingers, one moment clear and defined, the next dissipating into nothingness. My voice trailed off as memories flooded back, moments of laughter shared at family dinners, quiet evenings spent reading on the couch beside my husband, and yet, there was something more that had awoken inside me since Jake arrived. I want to feel alive, I finally confessed quietly. Jake nodded slowly as if he understood all too well what those words meant. Then maybe we need to figure out how to do that without tearing everything apart. A part of me longed for clarity amid this chaos, a way forward without sacrificing everything I held dear. But another part craved the thrill of stepping into unknown territory alongside him. As if sensing my internal struggle, Jake reached out and placed his hand over mine, a simple gesture yet charged with emotion that sent butterflies spiraling through my stomach. I don't want to hurt anyone, he said earnestly. But this, whatever it is between us, it's real. His touch ignited something deep within me, an urge to lean into this connection rather than pull away from it entirely. But guilt nagged at me relentlessly, a reminder of all that was at stake if things went wrong. Just then, the front door creaked open unexpectedly. Panic surged through me as footsteps echoed in the hallway, my husband returning home earlier than expected. Jake. I hissed urgently as he withdrew his hand instantly, our moment shattered by reality crashing down around us. We exchanged frantic glances before I quickly stood up and moved toward the kitchen area where dinner preparations awaited, a feeble attempt at normalcy amidst rising tension. My husband entered moments later with an easy smile plastered on his face but paused upon noticing our abrupt shift in atmosphere, the sudden distance between Jake and me palpable even without words spoken aloud. Hey there. What's going on? He asked casually while setting down his bag by the door. Oh, just, I stammered awkwardly while avoiding eye contact with either man present in that moment, a sinking feeling settling deep within me as secrets loomed large overhead like dark clouds ready to unleash their stormy wrath without warning. Jake cleared his throat nervously beside me before speaking up hesitantly, just discussing school stuff. My heart raced at how easily he played along, yet beneath his calm exterior lay an undercurrent of tension mirroring my own thoughts. What if we were caught? As dinner progressed uneasily around us filled with laughter from our son who had joined shortly after, his cheerful chatter contrasting sharply against rising unease building inside, I couldn't shake off feeling like each word spoken carried weight beyond mere conversation. They were threads intertwining destinies fraught with uncertainty waiting patiently for their moment unraveling completely. After dinner ended, and with plates cleared away, I excused myself under pretense needing fresh air outside on porch where moonlight illuminated surroundings softly casting shadows across yard inviting reflection among swirling thoughts racing through mind unbidden. There among rustling leaves whispering secrets only nature knew. I took deep breaths trying to gather myself together while contemplating choices made thus far leading here standing alone facing crossroads ahead uncertain future looming ever closer lurking just beyond horizon waiting patiently. Moments later Jake stepped outside joining me quietly standing side by side without speaking. Sharing silence wrapped tightly around us like warm blanket shielding against cold night air enveloping everything else fading away leaving only two souls united in shared struggle navigating turbulent waters ahead uncertain destination awaiting discovery. I can't keep doing this, I finally said breaking silence after what felt like eternity stretched out around us both holding breath suspended waiting answering unasked questions lingering heavily between two hearts beating wildly beneath surface trying maintain composure despite chaos swirling. Ever closer threatening exposed truth hidden beneath layers carefully constructed facade built painstakingly over years past. What do you mean? He asked cautiously glancing sideways toward me searching eyes seeking answers buried deep within tangled mess emotions swirling uncontrollably threatening drown both underweight choices made thus far. I mean either we stop this now or risk losing everything, I replied bluntly fearing repercussions yet knowing honesty mattered more than anything else right now. Even if it meant tearing apart fragile bond formed between two people caught up whirlwind circumstances beyond control reaching breaking point desperately needing clarity direction moving forward navigating choppy waters ahead uncertain future looming. Dangerously close threatening unravel everything once thought stable secure. We can figure something out, Jake said resolutely squeezing my hand tightly. An anchor amidst storm raging outside threatening drown hopes dreams aspirations held dear tightly wrapped around hearts yearning connection deeper than mere physicality shared fleeting moments passing by unnoticed until now suddenly bursting forth demanding attention. Claiming rightful place forefront lives forever altering course destiny intertwined irrevocably changed forevermore. The weight of my words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears and hopes. Jake's grip on my hand felt like a lifeline, anchoring me amidst the chaos swirling in my mind. I couldn't deny the truth, we were at a crossroads, and every choice bore consequences that could shatter our lives. What if we just take a step back? I suggested, my voice barely above a whisper. The thought of losing him was unbearable, yet the thought of continuing this charade felt equally suffocating. Jake's expression shifted, uncertainty flickering across his face. But what if this is what we need? To figure out what we really want? His words resonated within me, igniting a flicker of hope. I had spent so long caught in the monotony of my marriage that I had forgotten what it felt like to truly want something, to crave it with every fiber of my being. But was this desire worth the risk? Could I really turn my back on everything I had built? I don't know if I can keep living like this, I confessed, glancing toward the window where raindrops raced each other down the glass. Every day feels like a balancing act between two worlds. Jake leaned closer, his voice low and earnest. You don't have to choose right now. Just, let's take it one day at a time. One day at a time. The phrase echoed in my mind as if it held some magic solution to my tangled emotions. But deep down, I knew that time was running out. My husband was growing suspicious, he could sense something was off even if he couldn't pinpoint what it was. Suddenly, the door swung open, and there stood my son Ethan, soaked from head to toe and looking bewildered by the scene before him. My heart raced as I quickly withdrew my hand from Jake's grasp. The last thing I wanted was for Ethan to see anything that could raise questions. Mom? What's going on? He asked, confusion etched across his face. Just talking, I replied too quickly, trying to mask the panic rising within me. Ethan stepped further into the room and glanced between us with narrowed eyes. Talking? About what? Jake cleared his throat awkwardly. Just some school stuff, he said with an air of nonchalance that didn't quite match his tense posture. Ethan frowned but seemed willing to let it go for now. Okay, he said slowly before turning his attention to me again. I wanted to tell you something important. My heart sank at his serious tone. Whatever it was must be significant enough to interrupt our already fragile moment. What is it? I asked cautiously. He hesitated for a moment before speaking again, his voice trembling slightly. I think I'm failing out of college. The words hit me like a punch to the gut, an unexpected twist that sent shockwaves through me. My mind raced as worry spiraled around my thoughts like a storm cloud threatening rain. Ethan. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Panic laced my voice as memories flooded back, the late nights spent worrying about him adjusting to college life while juggling responsibilities at home. I didn't want you or Dad to worry, he admitted quietly, shame creeping into his expression. I exchanged glances with Jake. We both understood how much pressure Ethan placed on himself. As parents, we had always wanted him to succeed and thrive but had unintentionally added weight to his shoulders instead. Let's sit down and talk about this, I suggested gently, motioning for him to join us at the table where remnants of our earlier conversation lingered like ghosts in the air. As we settled into chairs around our small kitchen table, once filled with laughter and family dinners, I felt an overwhelming sense of urgency wash over me. This moment wasn't just about Ethan's academic struggles, it was about everything, the choices we made as individuals and how they rippled through our lives together as a family. I just feel lost, Ethan confessed after several moments of silence stretched between us like an unbridgeable gap filled with unspoken fears. Jake looked at me knowingly. He understood how much this weighed on me too, a reflection of all that had been unraveling beneath our roof lately. Maybe you need some time off? A break from school? Jake suggested cautiously, trying not to overstep but wanting desperately to help. No. That's not what I need. Ethan shot back defensively before running a hand through his hair in frustration. I need direction, not another excuse. The tension hung thickly in the air as both men stared at each other, two generations grappling with expectations while navigating their paths forward amidst uncertainty clouding their futures alike. I can help you figure things out, Jake offered gently after taking a breath as if trying hard not cross boundaries drawn by circumstance between us all, the lines blurring further still amid chaos surrounding us now more than ever before. I watched them interact, two souls yearning for connection yet burdened by unspoken truths, and felt torn once again between duty towards family obligations versus desires lurking beneath surface-level interactions waiting patiently for acknowledgement too long denied existence altogether until now. After several moments passed filled only by quiet contemplation surrounding us all, my heart racing with conflicting emotions, I finally spoke up again, breaking silence weighing heavily upon our hearts collectively shared together. Ethan, let's talk about your options more seriously. As soon as those words left my lips though, they carried implications far beyond mere academics entwined within them, a reminder that choices made today would echo throughout tomorrow shaping destinies intertwined forevermore. But just then came another unexpected twist when Ethan turned abruptly towards Jake saying simply, "You know what? Maybe you should just stay away from Mom." The words sliced through me like ice-cold water cascading down spine-jolting senses alive once more awakening dormant fears ignited anew revealing cracks formed beneath surface-level appearances masking deeper issues festering unnoticed until now demanding attention urgently needed before everything spiraled completely out control leading nowhere good. And there it was, a cliffhanger hanging precariously over our heads threatening collapse beneath weighty truths left unaddressed lingering ominously waiting patiently for resolution while hearts raced uncertainly onward facing unknown futures ahead beckoning forth decisions looming. Dangerously close ready reshape lives forevermore. The air hung thick with tension as I stood at the park's edge, watching the leaves rustle in the gentle breeze. The familiar sounds of laughter and chatter from families enjoying their day felt distant, almost mocking. I had come here seeking clarity, but instead, my heart raced with uncertainty. Then, there he was, my son's best friend, Jake. He approached me cautiously, his expression a blend of concern and something deeper that I dared not name. The last time we had spoken felt like an eternity ago, filled with unspoken words and unresolved feelings. "Sarah," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "We need to talk." I nodded, unable to find my voice. The weight of our shared past pressed heavily on my chest. Memories flooded back, the stolen glances, the laughter that echoed in empty rooms, and the moments we dared to let ourselves feel something more than friendship. "I've been thinking about everything," I finally managed to say. "About us." Jake stepped closer, his eyes searching mine for answers that I wasn't sure I had. "You don't have to feel trapped," he urged gently. "We can figure this out together." His words hung in the air between us like a fragile promise. But what did together even mean? The reality of my life loomed large, the family obligations that anchored me down and the illicit connection that threatened to drown me in its depths. "I can't just walk away from my life," I replied, my voice trembling slightly as I fought against the tide of emotions threatening to overwhelm me. He took a step back, frustration flickering across his face. "So you'll just pretend this never happened? Pretend we don't have something real?" I shook my head vehemently. "It wasn't that simple." "I'm not pretending anything," I insisted. "But what about your friendship with my son? What will happen if he finds out?" Jake's expression softened for a moment before hardening again, a mask of determination replacing vulnerability. "If he finds out, then he finds out," he said resolutely. "I can't keep living in this limbo." A wave of panic washed over me as his words sank in. Was it truly possible for him to risk everything? My heart raced at the thought of losing both him and my family in one fell swoop, a terrifying prospect that left me feeling dizzy. "Sarah," Jake said again, stepping forward once more until there was barely any space between us. "What do you want?" What did I want? The question echoed in my mind like a relentless drumbeat as I searched for an answer within myself, a truth buried beneath layers of guilt and fear. My voice faltered as memories surged forth, moments spent together under starlit skies and whispered secrets shared behind closed doors. But then came the image of my husband's face, his kindness and unwavering support through all these years, like a lifeline pulling me back from the brink. "I want to do what's right," I finally admitted, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes. Jake's gaze hardened slightly at my response. Disappointment flickered across his features before he masked it with indifference. "Right for who?" His words stung more than they should have. They cut through the fog clouding my judgment like a sudden gust of wind clearing away autumn leaves. "Right for everyone," I exclaimed defensively but immediately regretted raising my voice as several passers-by turned their heads toward us. Jake took another step back, creating distance between us both physically and emotionally, a chasm widening with every passing second filled with unspoken feelings. "Maybe you're right," he said quietly after a moment's pause filled with tension heavy enough to suffocate us both. "But maybe being right isn't enough anymore." With those final words hanging ominously between us like an unresolved argument left unfinished, Jake turned away abruptly, his silhouette retreating into shadows cast by tall trees lining the park path. I stood frozen for what felt like an eternity, my heart pounding wildly against ribs constricted by fear and uncertainty about everything unraveling around me. Suddenly engulfed by loneliness amidst familiar surroundings now transformed into haunting reminders of choices made and paths not taken, I stumbled backward toward home where safety lay waiting but felt increasingly suffocating instead. As dusk settled into twilight hues painting skies above vibrant oranges fading into deep blues, I heard footsteps approaching behind me, each sound echoing louder against pavement beneath feet heavy laden with regret. It was only when Jake reappeared beside me again, his eyes reflecting determination mixed with something darker, that realization struck hard, decisions were no longer merely personal. They rippled outward, affecting lives intertwined beyond comprehension or control. "Sarah," he said firmly yet softly, as if trying to bridge gaps formed between dreams lost amidst harsh realities faced daily. Not just by us but countless others caught up within same tangled web spun tight around hearts yearning for freedom beyond constraints imposed upon them. What if we just left? His suggestion hung suspended between possibility and peril, an invitation laden with risks neither could fully comprehend yet somehow felt drawn toward nonetheless. My breath caught in throat at thought racing through mind. Images flashed rapidly depicting lives lived differently, far removed from expectations set upon shoulders bearing burdens too heavy, long carried alone, without respite or reprieve offered freely anywhere nearby. "Leave?" I repeated incredulously while grappling internally, struggling against temptation beckoning forth dangerously close yet still shrouded beneath layers obscured by fear lingering ever-present, looming large, casting shadows over everything else surrounding us both now. Standing on precipice, teetering uncertainly, ready plunge headfirst into unknown depths below without safety net offered anywhere nearby. "Yes." He nodded resolutely, meeting gaze directly, unwavering despite apprehension evident swirling within depths reflecting shared uncertainty, faced together, standing side by side yet worlds apart, caught up within whirlwind spiraling downward, threatening consume everything around, leaving nothing behind untouched except memories fading quickly into darkness, closing fast behind us both, leaving little chance escape remained available anywhere else outside confines created long ago. In that moment, a decision loomed larger than life itself, demanding action taken swiftly before choices made irrevocably altered futures ahead forevermore.